Good morning. Good morning and welcome. Thanks for joining us here today. In 1915, Woodrow Wilson was President of the United States. Locke Craig was the governor here in North Carolina. The Ford Motor Company had just rolled its 1 millionth Model T off the assembly line. And on this very day, March 5th, 1915, the North Carolina General Assembly created the State Highway Commission, paving the way for what we know today as the North Carolina Department of Transportation. We're honored to have so many of you here today to join us for this 100th year celebration, and we want to thank all of you who are watching us online throughout the state. My name is Mike Charbonneau. I'm the Deputy Secretary of Communications here at NCDOT, and we're glad that you could be here in this historic building, which first opened its doors in 1921. Following our program today, we invite you to come take a look at our displays that you see on either side of the stage. To my right is a detailed timeline of the history of North Carolina transportation. To my left is historic images of all of the North Carolina state maps over the last 100 years. This is an important tradition for the Department of Transportation in the state. And I'm pleased to announce that today we have the next version of the map for 2015-2016 available. As you walked in, you found one of these on your seats. Please take them home with you today, and they'll be available for our citizens throughout the state beginning today as well. To get us started this morning, I first want to ask our Division of Highways Operation Program Manager, Delbert Roddenberry, to please join us to give the invocation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I was reading an old manuscript this morning about a highway project. I briefly mentioned a cut and fill and a grading process. What made it an interesting read is it was written in 700 to 680 BC time frame by a man named Isaiah. It's in the book of Isaiah. Well preserved in our canon of scripture, downloadable on any smartphone. Isaiah writes in chapter 40, "Prepare in the desert a way for the Lord. Make straight a path, make straight a highway in the wilderness for our God. And the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all mankind will see it, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. And in my time of favor, says the Lord, I will answer you. And in the day of judgment, I will help you. And I will keep you, and I will make you a covenant with my people to restore the land. And you will say to the captives, come out. And those living in darkness, be free. And they will feed beside the roads and find pasture on every barren hill. And those that have compassion on them, they will neither hunger nor thirst, nor will the desert heat or the sun beat down upon them. And he that has compassion on them will lead them beside streams of water. I will make mountains, all my mountains into roads, and my highways will be raised up, says the Lord. Shout for joy, O earth, rejoice, O heavens, and burst into song, O mountains. So the Lord will comfort his people, and he will have compassion on those that are afflicted." Would you bow your hearts and pray with me just now? Father, we do thank you for your word, that you are the God of the word. And this invocation is not so much about asking your presence here, but more acknowledging your presence that is already with us, because we see your fingerprints of blessings on everything around us here. And Lord, we know you're with us. And as the psalmist has so clearly written, you have searched us and known us. You know our downsitting, our uprising. You're acquainted with all of our ways. You understand our thoughts from afar off. You encompass our path and our lying down. You're acquainted with all of our ways. There's not a word on our tongue, but Lord, you know it altogether. You have set us behind and before and laid your hand upon us. Such knowledge is too wonderful. It is high, and we cannot attain it to. And with all the modern modes of transportation we have at our disposal, where shall we go from your spirit? Where shall we flee from your presence? If we ascend into the heavens, you're there. If we make our bed in hell, behold, you are there. If we take the wings of the morning and dwell into the uttermost parts of the sea, even there will your hand lead us, and your right hand will hold us. We say, surely the darkness will cover us, even the night shall be as day around us. For the darkness and the light are both alike unto thee, and the darkness hides not from you. Oh, how precious are your thoughts unto us, O God. How great is the sum of them. If we should count them, they would number more than the sand. And when we awake, we're still there. And Lord, we're thankful that you're still here. And while you're here, we ask for your blessings on this celebration today. Thank you for all those who have put much effort into preparing this time of celebration for us. Lord, thank you for those in military uniform, representing those who diligently and faithfully lay their lives on the line to protect the freedoms we have here in America, including the freedom we have just now. Bless those who have prepared words and song for us today, that our lives may be enriched and encouraged. And Lord, we thank you for the last 100 years of leadership, Lord, that has built a foundation for us to enjoy and to build infrastructure on. We thank you for our current leaders, Father. And I pray that you would grant them, according to your riches and glory, to be strengthened with might by the Spirit in the inner man, that Christ would dwell in their hearts. They would be rooted and grounded in love, and all their leadership motives would be pure before you. And Father, I pray that they would be able to comprehend the length, the breadth, and the depth, and the height of your love. So, Lord, we've been mindful of the past. We've been mindful of the present. We're thankful that we can have no fear for tomorrow because you're already there. And you will help us if we ask you. Father, that about sums up this invocation. I pray you receive this prayer with a humble heart. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Delbert. And now, continuing with the NCDOT family, I'm thrilled at this time to be able to introduce Ava Grace Jernigan. She's the 9-year-old daughter of our NCDOT employees, Dennis and Hannah Jernigan, who's going to come sing the national anthem for us. At this time, if you would please stand as the West Johnston High School JROTC, under the direction of Colonel Warren Singleton, presents the colors, followed by the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red flames, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled
Thank you very much. We have a number of special guests joining us here today, and I would like to start by recognizing 5 previous transportation secretaries who have joined us here today, and if you could each stand as we read your name. Tom Bradshaw, who served from 1977 to 1981. Jim Harrington, who served from 1985 to 1989. David McCoy, who served from 1999 to 2001. Lindo Tippett, who served from 2001 to 2009. And Gene Conti, who served from 2009 to 2013. We have a number of legislators who have joined us today. We have so many that if you could stand together to please be recognized. We also have a number of board members joining us here today from our Board of Transportation, our Turnpike Authority Board, Sports Authority Board, and directors of the Global Transport Board. If you could please stand to be recognized. And finally, on the day where we're celebrating our history, it's my honor to introduce 3 strong leaders who are mapping our transportation future: the Honorable Governor McCrory, Transportation Secretary Tata, and our Board Chairman Ned Curran.
Being here today on this very special day for the Department of Transportation. 100 years ago, there wasn't a road between your home in Raleigh and the road your home in Charlotte. It was a paved road. It wasn't until a year later it was the first paved road. When you reflect on past, present, future, day like today.
Well, I think the road system is one of the primary reasons, the transportation system in North Carolina, not just the road system, is one of the primary reasons for economic prosperity over the last 100 years. That and probably energy, with the rivers being dammed up and producing power. And it's all about connectivity. And it's been about connectivity for the past 100 years in our nation and in our state. In fact, I'm a Dwight David Eisenhower fan. And in the 50s, Dwight David Eisenhower came up with a plan to connect the East with the West and the rural with urban for our country after World War II. And our nation still benefited. And our state is still benefiting from some of the visionary leadership that's in this audience in the past, working with previous governors and many of the employees here. And it's all about connectivity. Connectivities to our ports, connectivities to our airports, connectivity between urban and rural, and connectivity between the East, the West, the Piedmont, and also connectivity with the rest of the nation, up through Virginia, Tennessee, and South Carolina. So as we celebrate the last 100 years, I think our job now is to learn from those lessons what worked and what didn't work, and think about what will the people 100 years from now sitting maybe in this auditorium, hopefully this beautiful auditorium will be preserved 100 years from now, what will they say about what we did for the next 100 years? And that's what I think what we're all interested in doing, is developing that 100-year vision. What is our transportation system and infrastructure going to be? And with the new technology, and with also the new private-public cooperation, and with, I think, more regional cooperation even between states, I'm looking forward to the dynamic vision for the next 100 years as we celebrate the past 100 years.
Secretary, when you think about what we did, the physical sense, concrete, steel, asphalt, is that the difference?
Well, you know, Chairman, the governor's got exactly right. We're at an inflection point here where, frankly, we've rewritten the law with the help of the legislature, that we're taking the politics out of road building and transportation system projects. and we're data-driven, and we've got a 25-year vision. But frankly, it's the people of this great organization that have had tremendous leaders come before us and have built this great team. And when you look at Neighbor Grace coming up here with the courage to belt out a cappella, national anthem, her parents have both over 20 years in NCDOT. And my point is that Dennis and Hannah Jernigan, Dennis in Division 5 and Hannah working in governance, we have families like that. We have every one of our employees across the state are members of their communities, and they're members of the larger community that is NCDOT. And when I think about all of the divisions when I think about the over 80 counties, I've visited the 14 divisions and all the employees I've spoken with, I get so proud to watch the interaction, and we need no further evidence than the way the teams have cleared the roads for the last 3 weeks. First and foremost, Mr. Chairman, this is a people organization with great leaders throughout the 14 divisions and throughout the central office here in the capital region.
Tony and I were just talking about, we were just going, I was whispering to Tony, I go, Tony, what's the storm look like today? It's like a daily conversation. And I said, Tony, are all these storms your fault or my fault? And I said, I think a little of both, because he said, when I was in Iraq, it seemed like wherever I went, a new firefight would arrive. When I was mayor, and I'm seeing some of the former DOT members that I used to work with when I was mayor, secretaries, when I was mayor, we had the 100-year flood, the 100-year ice storm, the 100-year drought, and the 100-year snowstorm. And now, since I've been governor, I'm bringing that same great luck we've had in seasons of winter weather from the west to the east. But I'll tell you, it's not just about building roads and rail and ports. The concept of operations and maintenance and saving lives is another major part of the job that you can't see on the campus. And I can't tell you how much I want to thank the DOT employees for the incredible job they've done. And just thank you very much.
Please note for the record, none of the storms were attributed to the chairman.
And I retract my answer.
It's now starting to sound like a cabinet meeting.
Governor, you and I go way back. I won't go how far back. We go way back. And I recall, as Mayor Charles, you had a vision. You had a vision to talk about transit, sidewalks, different types of nodes. You have your 25 years, and when you think about the next 100 years, especially trying to as well, in terms of commitment to alternative nodes, how vital that will be.
I think what will be the big change in the next 25 to 100 years is the integration into technology, into other forms of transportation, and also the way transportation is going to have to plan to integrate with other modes of connectivity. And that includes communications. The communications technology has changed dramatically. In fact, Tony came up to me yesterday and said, Governor, we're talking about building a road on one of the highways, and all of a sudden the mayor is saying, wait a minute, before you build that new highway lane, can we lay down wires for communications at the same time? In other words, we can no longer think in just the silos. Now, in the past secretaries had to think of where the electric lines or the water and sewer lines were going to be in the future, and hopefully coordinate that activity. But I think in the future, we're going to have to be thinking of much more broadly integration of transportation into other modes of connectivity. And I might add, we're doing an exciting thing with cultural resources, which we hope to really emphasize more this year, and that's with the Art That Moves You program. And that's where we want to have bridges throughout North Carolina to build the bridges so they're a signature point in North Carolina. For example, the Yadkin River Bridge, we've got a brand new bridge over there. A lot of secretaries worked a long time getting that bridge across the river, but we're even thinking about now, how can we make that a signature point in North Carolina along I-85? And we're looking at the infrastructure and bridges at the entrances to Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee, and with lighting and other art and other ways, how can we make that infrastructure of the hard bridges and other highway infrastructure blend more into the community through cultural arts, and even showing the historical aspect of that. So the Secretary is working with the Cultural Resources Secretary, Susan Klutz, on how we can blend the hardened infrastructure in with the community in a better way, both in small towns and along the rural highways and in urban centers. So I'm real excited about that integration that we're trying to work with at this point in time.
That's exactly right, Governor. As we look at all the different modes, the mission of DOT is to move people and products safely, just in summary. And you hit it, the safety part and the focus of our employees is first and foremost on safety. And next in line would be that people and product, moving freight, moving people to destinations. And so having the arteries for commerce to come here, 30% of the traffic on I-85 is freight. And so that is critical. And all the hard work that came before to get the Yadkin River Veterans Memorial Bridge built so that freight could move smoothly, that's the kind of thing that we're looking at going into the future, is how can we open the arteries from the ports to the highways, to rail, to transit, and have that to the airports, and have that interconnectivity, that intermodal service, so that we can make sure that we're moving people and product safely, efficiently, and being an inviting area for businesses to come.
And we've got to recognize too that we've got to connect people. And it's not just in the car, but when we build a highway bridge in the future that might be out in the middle of nowhere, well, it might be in a major neighborhood or commercial district 5 to 10 to 25 years from now. And we've got to anticipate what the growth will be. So if we know a hotel is going to be built on one side of the highway, down the road, and a residential neighborhood is over here, and restaurants, how can we not make the highways a barrier of no connectivity with people? How can we make it safe for people? I think a perfect example is the Concord area, the Concord Mall. How can we better connect and make it more people-friendly, bike-friendly, and things of this nature? But in addition, we have to plan for the infrastructure, not just while we're building the road, but what will we need 25 to 50 years from now?
And one of the things I'm really proud of with our employees and Chairman Curran, we work very closely with the mayors, the city councils throughout, and the county commissioners throughout the state. I was just with Chairman Curran down in Charlotte, as we talked about 485 South and laid out options. We'd saved $15 million, finished the project 2 years in advance, and that left for what was the appearance of an open lane. And so the governor tasked us with find some options. So we went and briefed some options to the city council. That's been briefed to the Charlotte Region Transportation Organization, the MPO down there, and now next month they're going to vote on what option they want. And so it's that kind of teamwork that the governor's talking about with regard to it's not just state DOT planning, but it's bottom-up planning as well, and the new formula, frankly, accounts for that. You've got statewide tier, and then you've got 2 local regional tiers where there's the input from the locals is codified in the law, so which is a great thing.
The thing, real quick, the thing that I'm excited about is the connectivity, not just within the state, but going out of the state, to help more people get in. For example, Elizabeth City area, northeastern North Carolina, is going through very tough economic times. The economy hasn't recovered there as much as other parts of the state. We actually think the best opportunity for their revival, economic revival in the future, is connecting the Hampton Roads. The same way Rock Hill connects to Charlotte, Elizabeth City, in that area, the connectivity to Hampton Roads. So it's not just connectivity within the state, it's connectivity to economic regions throughout the southeast. And if we do that and think of the bigger picture of where the economic regions will develop,
how can we connect the economic regions, and that's going to help all areas of the state, small towns and large cities alike. And that's our major goal right now, and I think that's the goal of our predecessors. And the danger is that we think short term when we build something and don't think about what the growth will be 20, 30, 40 years out. So whatever we build today, it ought to be viable for the long term, not just for the short term. And that's, I think, one of our great challenges.
When you talk about that, when you talk about your 25-year vision, courage around STI to review and we put members of the legislature. And we know women out there are challenges in funding. Talk to us a moment about the courage it takes to address funding for the future.
Absolutely, and I want to commend my legislators. We've got some great legislators out here who have made some courageous decisions just in the past several years on the funding formula. With Bill Brawley and others are in the audience. I can't see, sorry, the lights are going. And we've got some great legislators here from Gaston County and others in the front who are opening their minds about how can we fund things in the future, recognizing that car engines are becoming more efficient and therefore people won't be using as much gas. The flexibility or the fluctuation of gas prices is going to continue. We don't know which way. We've seen dramatic change both up and down on that. And we're also going to see the concept of who's using what, and you pay for what you use versus how much do we share with each other. And these are issues that we have to be very transparent about and have statewide discussions on not only how we're going to pay for the road that we're building next year, but how are we going to pay for roads and trains and transit and other needed infrastructure 50 years from now. And that's how long we got to be thinking, because some of the secretaries that are in this audience right now, some of the roads that they've planned are just now being built. And I felt that as a mayor, all of a sudden I see a road being built, and I said, I remember that being discussed 20 years ago. So 20 to 25 years in the life of a program is a very short period of time, and we've got to recognize that.
Well, we think of this moment as an historical moment with STI and some of the other efforts that we have, and we know that a lot of it is made possible because we're fortunate enough to have government passion for transportation.
Well, I just need to let you all know, I just had breakfast with Governor Martin this morning. He spent the night at the Executive Mansion last night. And we started talking about transportation, and he was telling me stories in the 80s. One of his promises was connect Raleigh to the coast. I think connect Raleigh to Wilmington. And, right now we're saying, how can we connect Asheville to Wilmington, in which we don't have any areas in which you have to stop and go through 30 or 40 stoplights. And now we're even talking about how can we connect parts of North Carolina to Virginia, or parts of North Carolina with Tennessee, or parts of North Carolina with other ports, both in and out of North Carolina. And to me, that's exciting. And at the same time, I think one of Tony's great challenges and all of our great challenges is not just preparing for the future, but while we're doing that, we have crisis every single day, not just with weather crisis, but just with the Morehead City Port in the last 3 weeks, where all of a sudden the water level goes from 40 or 50 feet to 32 feet or something to that effect. And next thing I know, I'm talking about a subject that he's having to educate me on, and we're having to move just like that.
And I'm calling the Vice Chief of Staff in the Army to get more money.
His military connections have helped, by the way. But the Bonner Bridge situation. So the people at DOT have a great challenge. You have to be both visionary, but you also have to deal with the day-to-day crisis. We do not know what's going to happen next week, but there will be a crisis somewhere in the state next week. So we're going to have to be mobile, we're going to have to be flexible, and we're going to have to be visionary at the same time. So with the state legislature, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your hard work and more than anything, the DOT employees. And it's great to see some of the past leaders here too.
Well, join me in thanking the Governor and the Secretary of Transportation.
time-tuned to get to session. If you need to, we totally understand that. If you can stay, we'd love to have you stay to join us for a brief video on the history of NCDOT.
In a world so reliant on mobility, it's hard to fathom what life was like before we all owned cars or even had a paved road system. Over the past 100 years, while so many details of how and why we travel have changed, the need for a centralized transportation authority remains as necessary as ever. 100 years ago, on Friday, March 5, 1915, the North Carolina General Assembly committed to investing in transportation across the state by founding the State Highway Commission. What followed was a century of steady improvements and breakthroughs that have increased the quality of life for all North Carolinians. Even in the early years, the Commission struggled with some of the same issues we deal with today. In order to provide funding for system improvements, North Carolina's first gas tax was introduced in 1921, set at 1 cent per gallon. In 1931, North Carolina stepped ahead of many of its regional neighbors and assumed ownership of all secondary roads.
Every county had its own little maintenance, and we did that until 1931, and the state in the Depression years took over all the county road maintenance that had previously been county maintained.
In 1934, our great ferry system on the coast began receiving funding from the state. Today, North Carolina operates the second highest number of ferries of any state. North Carolina was also the first state to declare bicycles as vehicles in 1939, and became the first state to form a dedicated bicycle and pedestrian division in the department's restructuring during the 1970s. As the post-World War II period merged into the computer age, North Carolina's interstate system blossomed. The North Carolina Department of Transportation of today was born in 1974, incorporating all 6 modes of transportation in one department.
Well, most of it was done by hand when I started, drafting, and all that's been automated.
Everything in this state's improved since the 1940s.
There are things going on in the 20 years I worked, well, right at 30 years, that were hard for me to imagine when I went to work. The interstate roads and some of the construction practices, the materials we use. And of course, one of the big things that's changed is the cost of doing business, the cost of roads.
Well, the first effort was Governor Bob Scott from 48, I believe, to 1951, 52. He paved, to get the farmer out of the mud, he paved 14,400 miles in 4 years.
From the state's first paved road in 1916 to Governor McCrory's 25-year vision, North Carolina's Department of Transportation has always striven to provide the state's citizens with the services they need.
There's no doubt that infrastructure is the backbone of the North Carolina economy. We must continue to invest to further expand opportunities and create more jobs.
From paving Tobacco Road to the multifaceted transportation system we have today, the North Carolina Department of Transportation has provided every opportunity possible to all North Carolinians, and we have a lot of work left to do. And we're doing that work right now through the governor's 25-year vision, the overhaul of how we distribute money through the strategic mobility formula, and the discussions we're having now on funding reform.
But behind all the technological improvements and milestones, one thing has remained constant: the spirit of hard work and state pride held by the NCDOT family.
The technology is good, but you got to realize it's still the people. You can talk about technology all you want to, but you got to have people that know what to do and how to do it.
It was not unusual for people to work 40 years, 45 years with DOT back then.
As NCDOT moves into the future, we look to new faces, new technologies, and new ideas.
From what I've seen over the years and from what I've seen recently, it is always about doing more with less and getting more efficient at our processes.
In North Carolina, we're growing so much, and as we grow, it's hard to maintain and sustain the transportation that we already have.
Technology and innovation is transforming at a rapid rate, and the department has to respond accordingly. We're a growing region, we're a diverse region, and so we have people that have desires for a lot of transportation choices, and we've got to be postured and ready to support those choices.
To me, the key thing is to be trustworthy in the public's eye. If the public believes us and trusts us to do what we say we're going to do, I think that funding issues would be a little bit easier to talk about.
With innovation, sound decision-making, and the continued partnership of all North Carolinians, the North Carolina Department of Transportation is poised for another 100 years to be proud of.
Question. There we go. I've got two on, so I'm assuming one will work. I think Bill Rosser had it right. It's about the people. That's sort of what I talked about. And in that vein, can we give Ava Grace another round of applause? Sent a chill up my spine to know that a young lady raised by two great NCDOT employees has such courage and capability as well. I think Dennis and Hannah, she will be providing for your long-term care in the future. We've got several legislators here. I'm going to read out some names, and if I miss anyone, just throw something at me. But we've got Senator Curtis, Representatives Agner, Brockman, Dwayne Hall, Rodney Hall, Representative Richardson, Steinberg, Stevens, Torbett, Art, Tyne, and Shepard here. Have I missed anyone? And of course, Representative Eiler. In all, every name I just read is a huge advocate and their extended family within the General Assembly. We cannot get what we've done without them and their support. I meet with them almost daily, if not daily, sometimes hourly. Just thank you so much, and let's give a round of applause for everyone. I sit on 4 different boards, Ports Authority, Turnpike Authority, Global Transport, and the Board of Transportation, all of whom have representatives here. And they're some of the most committed, dedicated people with whom I've ever served. And service is a theme here along with people. But those boards give willingly of their time. They're not paid anything, and they help make critical decisions for the future. So please, let's give a round of applause for all 4 boards. I lay out all of that because it's about teamwork. And I think every former secretary here would tell you that it is about teamwork. You can get nothing done in isolation. And it's the give and take of a democracy and give and take of the public process that results in the best solutions. And the employees that are filling this audience and throughout the state that are watching live stream, we should have said that up front, but this is being live streamed, and to all the employees out there, I am just terribly proud of the teamwork at the municipal level, the county level, and of course at the statewide and the federal level. to get things done in this state, everything's got to be meshing together, and our employees make it that way. And there's been tremendous progress. The connectivity and the opportunity that we experience today would not be possible without those that have come before us. And it's really a privilege today for me to be able to, we're talking about 100 years. We have 2 employees still with us that have been with us half that time. 50-year employees. And so we're going to recognize 2 50-year employees. And because this really is a people endeavor, I think it's important that, and I'll mention Doug Lane as the first recipient of the award that we will give today. Doug started in December 1961 in the roadway design unit, and he spent time, it sounds like he's in jail. I'm just reading what this, he served, he served in the U.S. Army during Vietnam, and after his time with the Army, Doug returned to NCDOT and now works in contract standards and development section as the preliminary estimates squad leader. And I understand from his colleagues that they joke in his middle name is Service. You know, anybody seen American Sniper, they called him Legend. Well, they call Doug Service. And because, you know, he works incredibly long hours, often late into the night, making sure that estimates are prepared and ready to go. And in 2006 was awarded the State Employees Award for Excellence because of his outstanding government service. And so, Doug, I'd like to call you up here and present you with a memento for your 50 years of service to the state of North Carolina. Years. Our second recipient is Fred Joe Barkley, who started his career with NCDOT in 1965, and he began with the utility section, and in 1980 changed direction and began working for the appraisal section of the right-of-way unit. Fred was also a member of the Army National Guard with different tours in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and the National Guard Joint Task Force that participated in Hurricane Andrew cleanup in 1992. And so those of you that remember that was a big endeavor. Even the 82nd Airborne Division got involved in helping the state clean up. You know, Fred retired as a Chief Warrant Officer 4, which is about as high as you can go, after 38.5 years, and he's been described by all of his peers with whom he works as an outstanding employee who consistently goes above and beyond any expectations associated with his job. And he's known as a thoughtful employee who genuinely cares about his people. He's a great leader. You don't make Chief Warrant Officer 4 in the Army without being a leader. And a technical expert. That's the warrant officer field is both leadership and technician. And so, Fred, if I could ask you to come up here to thank you for your 50 years of service to NCDOT, and both of you for your service to the nation. I think we got a vote going on or something, but thank you both, Fred and Doug. When added up, you're 100 years of service, which is what we're celebrating today, and frankly, we owe you a great debt of gratitude for your service to the nation, to the state, to the citizens of North Carolina and beyond, because we have lots of people that come here and visit. And I have lots of people to thank as well for this tremendous ceremony. The communications team has done a fantastic job of pulling this thing together, and absolutely first-class job. The roadside environmental team put all this together, which was a lot of labor-intensive involvement there. And they're the ones who continue with the Dottie Martin wildflower program and make our highways as beautiful as they are, and all of their hard work. So let's give a round of applause for those. And the last thing I'd like to say is we all stand on the shoulders of those who have come before us, and with all of the activities that are happening right now with the General Assembly making decisions about the future of transportation, with the governor's 25-year vision, with the new strategic transportation investment law, there's been so much hard work by the DOT employees in this room and those watching. I just heartfelt thank you for all of your hard work, and to all of the division engineers who react and turn on a dime at a moment's notice while they're focused on something. They've got weather coming in, and it is just absolutely phenomenal, the commitment, the dedication, the professionalism. It makes me very proud to be a teammate with all the employees, all the boards, and frankly, it is a real privilege to serve as the Secretary of NCDOT, as I'm sure any of the previous secretaries would tell you. So, congratulations to everyone in here who has contributed to the last 100 years. We look forward to another 100 years of great transportation system improvements and opening those arteries for the safe movement of people and products. And I'd like everyone to stand now as West Johnson High School comes forward to retire the colors.
Thank you all. Have a great day.